Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Barb Bacon, and I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. If I had my buttons on today, it would be, let's get some gun control. I'm tired of looking at the news and seeing this. Black Lives Matter in honor of our friend Joel. And let's have equal rights for everybody.
This is James Gunn. I am a community advocate here in Charlotte, North Carolina for LGBT women's rights with the National Organization for Women, gun sense laws with Moms and Men Action, and anything that extends equity to all. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Christian Cano. You're the co-host. My buttons are Moms and Men Action, gun sense legislation, healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and also in my heart, Black Lives Matter on behalf of Joe Oldham, who's a guest of ours who passed away last year. That's it.
Good morning, everybody. It is Coffee and Pan Dulce time. We got some rainbow flags flying. It is International Pride Month as well. But we've got an interesting show. We've had an interesting week for sure. We do record this a week in advance, but if you're seeing this for the first time, it is June 21st, which actually is the first official day of summer. We're at the summer solstice. If you're seeing this for the first time, even though where we're at in Charlotte, North Carolina, it has been unseasonably cool for the most part.
Yes, 56 degrees this morning walking. It was great.
It's crazy. We're having this extended spring-like weather. It's like...
Oh, it's going to be 90 on Friday, so...
Yeah.
It's back.
Truthfully, it's about time. I'm ready for some swimming in the apartment pool a little bit. I mean, personally,
the pool water is still a little too cold. Yeah,
it's a little crisp. I dipped my toe in it. I said, "No, spank you." Just a little cool. But we got our usual suspects. We got Christian and Barb and myself, Jenny James Gunn, and we are raring to go.
Yep.
Yes, as Jenny said, welcome everyone to Coffee and Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Jenny Gunn and Barb Bacon. Baby Trump Pinata and Pride St. Bernie are joining us, and they'll probably be dropping off here soon, so you can see our three wonderful faces. Hey, we had last week, I which you would have seen by now if you watched this last week's show. So with Dr. B, it was a very interesting show. I want to thank Dr. B for coming back and helping us talk about COVID and who survived COVID. So get back. So I want to thank everyone who's joined us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube and the thousands who listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. So with that said, we're going to go directly into. I'm sorry, I got to put my cheaters back on. I was realizing. Let's go directly into Barb's current events.
And this is Barb's current events.
All right, so Barb's current events. We have 3 current events. I haven't told anyone about these. The first one, there was a track meet that occurred the week that we're taping this, and apparently a grandfather stormed onto the track and accused one of the runners of being a transgender transgender kid. It was a 9-year-old girl, I believe, and I'm not sure. I just saw it this morning, which we taped this a week before, and it turns out the guy has now been banned from school property and so forth. But my understanding is the girl's not transgender, but she was being accused because she won, and so I think this kind of highlights the tip of the iceberg, right?
But
okay, I'm sorry.
I'll correct the story when you're done reading the other.
Okay, I'm sorry. The next one is this so rarely happens. I just wanted to talk about it. Apparently, a Mets pitcher was ejected from a game last week, when you see this, because of a sticky substance on the ball.
Oh.
And so I'm like, what is this, like 1950s?
Yes, yeah.
So apparently this this is the second pitcher this year that has been suspended. There's an automatic 10-day suspension. So my question is, we have a lot of questions about this. So, I thought that was just a really interesting thing. And then last week, when you've seen this, I don't know if they're still out there, but there are people that are protesting in front of Disney World in Orlando, Florida, that have Nazi flags, and they're standing in front of the entrance of the Disney World. But they're not just in. They're kind of like all around Florida. They're DeSantis supporters, and they have Nazi flags. They're neo-Nazis, and he has not once said this is wrong. So those are the three topics today. Jenny, we'll start with you, and you can correct me on that first one. So tell me what you think.
So first of all, the story's out of British Columbia in Canada. It was a track meet. It was a kids' track meet. The girl that was a fourth grader was being accused of being trans has extraordinarily short hair. She had a pixie cut. It was the shot put. So to throw the shot put, you got to be a little bit more muscular. Her presentation was a little butch. And because people were so crazy about trans kids and playing in sports and everything else, this dude just loses it. Charges onto the field where the shot put was like, they immediately grabbed the shot put up because they didn't want him to pick it up and like throw it at somebody. And he was going off, twisting off on the 10-year-old. And then started going off on the parents and calling them child abusers and groomers and just all this. Now, this happened in Canada on top of us, even though they have conservative wackos up there too. But the bottom line is, because they fomented so many scare things about trans kids, even though this chucklefuck didn't know if this girl was trans or not. But the fact that a girl or a woman can't present the way they're comfortable presenting, this girl likes her pixie cut. She went through the trauma, lost her moment to play in sports because of what happened. And can you imagine being 9 or 10 years old and having an adult male of us charging you because you have a short haircut? My mom has a short haircut. She's not trans. And I think it's one of the most, a lot of this is coming from serious misogyny and sexism. And two, a lot of athletes that are girls and women do sport short haircuts because long hair, when you're running around and jumping and, doing things that are sporty, isn't the easiest thing to overcome. And if there's wind, because you're an outdoor event, it's slapping you in the face. It's not having long hair is not really something that's particularly comfortable in sports in general. But the fact that this dude made a judgment because the girl's a little bit more masculine, supposedly masculine presenting, is stupid. It's just stupid. It's stupid.
Okay.
Because grown adults have gotten so upset on healthcare issues that they're willing to develop a red scare, turning your neighbor mentality. And so that we have low IQ dudes like this supposed grandfather losing their freaking mind at a kid's event. A kid's event. It's not the Olympics.
Yeah.
Not the and this kind of thing shouldn't be encouraged anyway. The second thing is Nazis.
Yeah.
That are Republicans. Never would have thought that. I never would have guessed that. Even though you see Nazi flags at Trump rallies, and on January 6th, and Confederate flags, which are just Southern Nazis. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, DeSantis isn't going to push back against them. Those are his supporters. Those are his those are his campaigners. This is who he is. Yeah. So anybody, I don't know, any person of color should really rethink about out and out Nazis that are willing to publicly wear Nazi garb and fly Nazi flags and protest in Disney. I mean, come on. Mm-hmm. I mean, what kind of asshole protests Disney? Disney. And you know why they're protesting is because they made a movie with a black mermaid. And because they all think that she should be white. Mm-hmm. And the third topic was
the Mets pitcher. You know, I know you love sports, so
dirty pitchers will scuff balls because you can take a baseball and you can scuff it with something like sandpaper, and it flies differently. But using tar and sticky substances and sandpaper is something all pitchers. There's two types of pitchers. Yeah, dirty cheaters that get caught and ones that don't. Pitchers are some of the most ornery human beings ever. Mm-hmm. They're sneaky. They're going to look for any advantage because the person they're facing down has a big old bat swinging back at them. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of baseball. Cheating is part of baseball. At Pete Rose. It's almost assumed they're gonna mess with the baseball as much as they can to get as much of it. Yeah. Baseball has always been that way. I'm not condoning the cheating, but I just think it's funny how they make a big deal when certain pitchers do it and when other pitchers do it. Yeah. I don't. Nolan Ryan was notorious for crap like that. It's just funny. I think it's a bunch bizarre. Of yeah. I think it's part of sports. I think as many years as I played sports, everybody pushes the limit as far as they can, get every advantage they can, and they're going to push the rules. They all.
Well, that's bizarre. Yeah. So Barb, you have any comments on those three?
Well, let's stick with baseball for a minute. At least some of the rules changes they made this year make the game go faster.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of really good reviews. I wouldn't watch an entire baseball game, but still. But Art's a big Braves fan, so we're going to actually go to the Braves game next 2 weekends. Cool.
The thing that makes sports overall suspect to me now is all this freaking gambling.
Yeah.
Gambling. I mean, every commercial is about have a free coupon and bet on this. Why is Pete Rose still a bad guy? Mm-hmm. After all these years, could you give him a break? You're condoning it and getting big bonuses and making a lot of money off of it. It's just one of my new pet peeves. So anyway, I don't much care for DeSantis. I just found out that my niece that lives on Marco Island now, she turned Republican. I'm like, okay. And so we couldn't even talk about, we're not talking politics anymore. So that was the end of that. Really. They are all begging for supporters, the people that are challenging. Yeah. So they're not going to say anything bad about anybody, but I just, whatever. Yeah. Politics, I might give that up too. What was the first thing?
The first one was the track meet. The young lady who, the 9-year-old shot put a girl who was accused of being transgender.
I hadn't heard anything about this. I think for her it's very sad. Where the hell were the officials in that place? Why didn't they drag him off the field and get rid of him? Who is he to interrupt anything? He should have been arrested.
And he may have. I'm not exactly sure. I just saw it late last night.
He is banned from all athletic facilities, and that's so he did catch a lifetime ban, as he should. And authorities are deciding whether to press charges or not. And so, but the officials stepped between him and the child's mother. So the child's mother went to rush by the athlete's side, and that's why he shifted from the girl to the mom, because the mom was present. And so, but
I see.
He's just a psychopath. I mean, that's just First of all, kids sports needs to be about the kids. If she, let's say she was a trans girl instead of a cisgender girl, obviously she qualified to be out there. Obviously the school would have known about it. And at that age, she wouldn't have been on hormones, but she also wouldn't have been in puberty either. So there wouldn't have been a physical anyway. On top of it, in no way, shape, or form should society ever deem it responsible or okay for a parent or an adult to rush out onto a field of play or a court. Like we don't need to start that shit. This is not a free for. You don't need to be anywhere near.
He would have been drug off immediately. So.
But Jenny, what you said makes, we have to really put things in perspective, because there's a couple of things that you've said on your show that comes on after this one that I never looked at from that perspective. But you're correctly right. There's so much misogyny and sexism in this anti-trans wave, because this guy probably wouldn't have gone after a girl a trans boy that he thought was a someone who was transitioning to be a boy, right? But also think about it. Him storming onto the track and yelling at this parent and this child is no different than Moms for Liberty people yelling at trans kids in today's schools in North. The only difference is they're not going onto a track. They're doing it in the court of public opinion. So they're still attacking kids. They're still attacking parents. And so, it is no different. It still impacts the child, and so the only difference is they're not actually stepping onto a track. They're doing it in the cowardness of the computer and statements,
or even in public school meetings.
Exactly.
This type of mentality is exactly this is exactly what groups of Moms for Liberty try to do, which is foment controversy. Say that this part of this is the school's fault. Like somebody needs to get blamed for somebody transitioning. So first of all, schools don't transition kids. Doctors do, literal doctors. Second of all, a 9 or 10-year-old is not going to be on meds. They're pre-puberty. They only start taking puberty blockers on the onset of puberty. It clearly, Canada has about the same type of rules as the United States does as far as sports and transitioning. One, a trans athlete has to register with the state, go through certain testing requirements. The testing requirements and things like that is way stricter for a youth athlete, and a school athlete, versus what cisgendered kids or non-trans kids go through. So it's, even though there can be non-trans kids that, especially girls, have higher testosterone levels than they should have because of naturally occurring testosterone in a female's body, especially post-puberty. In fact, some cis girls have got knocked out of athletic competitions with too high of testosterone. or suspended until they can figure out why the testosterone levels are too high. But what started all this is these Moms for Liberty and all these wackos going crazy about some trans kid in Goats Falls, Kansas, that won one track meet or one played on a basketball team, and some idiot like this that charged the mound or charged the track up in Canada has that same reaction. So they just nuke it all because maybe some trans kid was competitive one time out of 100,000 events in that state. And so people cry foul when a trans athlete does do well. And you don't hear them say a damn thing when the next 10,000 events that involve trans people, they don't even place in the top 3. And so I think it's funny that trans kids aren't allowed to win. They're not allowed.
And not to mention, which I did not know this until you educated us on this show and your show, there are, 1-2 trans athletes in some states, right? Like a handful.
So North Carolina
thousands and thousands of kids.
In North Carolina right now, in this last class of athletes in the state, we had 7 statewide out of 1.5 million students, out of probably 250,000 athletes. We had 7 total trans athletes, and they're not all trans girls. There's also non-binary and there's trans males. In fact, the majority of the athletes you see that are in trans youth sport or in youth sports are usually trans males. Trans girls rarely compete in anything athletic. And there's a lot of reasons why. In Kansas, where they were suggesting we inspect every kid's, especially girls' genitalia, and they were trying to pass a bill where school officials can touch and inspect its genitalia.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is Republicans' mentality. There was only 2 trans athletes in the whole state of Kansas. Whole state.
Well,
whole freaking state. And they're wanting to put every non-trans kid, including trans girls, under the crosshairs of, I don't know how many pedophile coaches there have been, but there's been quite a few. And the last thing you need to do is behind closed doors have a bunch of conservative sports ball coaches check it's private.
Checking
the reason why
out.
we call it privates because they need to be private, especially children. Then we don't need to greenlight pedophiles.
Sure.
And the real pedophiles are anybody that fixates on other people's own kids' genitalia. It's the accuser that you need to worry about, not the trans kids. I can tell you right now.
Exactly.
Well, let's go back to my comment from last week.
Sure.
Why the hell are they in anybody's medical conditions? That's a HIPAA violation, and they continue to let it slide. And I don't know why, with all the hungry lawyers there are out there. It's too controversial. And I'm sorry, that's their personal medical history, and you've got no right to be in any part of it unless you're a parent or a guardian. That's it.
And I put this in the same category with reproductive care, birth control, and abortion. It's nobody's business.
Exactly.
And legally is nobody's business. Nobody needs to know if you sought out an abortion, you're thinking about going on any kind of birth control, anything like that should never be regulated by the government as far as prohibition. That should be between medical professionals that know what they're doing. That's why they went to these big old fancy schools and learned all this smart stuff. I would rather see a doctor be helping a person make these decisions, whether it's to transition or see reproductive care, than some idiot Republican that doesn't even probably know where the clitoris is. Like let's be real. let's be
Well,
real
okay.
for just a second. And these aren't people that are qualified to make medical decisions, and they shouldn't make blanket medical decisions for an entire populace. That is not sound medicine.
That's right. Hey, listen, we're up against our first break. We went a little over, so we'll be right back. And then I just want to say something about this Mets. This just blows my mind. We'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce right after this.
Hey, y'all, thanks for watching, and support local Black and brown businesses, including our sponsor, Manolo Bakery. It has some fabulous pastries, food, king cakes, all kinds of specialty cakes, swallows, and much, much more. Some of the best food you eat in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, Manolo's Bakery, right here in East Charlotte. Thanks for watching. Hey, y'all, it's International Pride Month, and I want to wish everybody, our fellow queer neighbors and our allies, a happy Pride Month. Spend money in Target and your local queer Black and brown businesses as well. But happy Pride. Thanks for watching this show, and be safe out there.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, Dave.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So what blows my mind is about this Mets guy being suspended for sticky substance rules. How do you find out? I mean, the catcher has to know there's something on it, right? So the catcher has to be going along with it, right?
Sure.
So is the referee or the umpire going, something's real suspicious about that? You know, I mean, I'm just curious how thousands and thousands of people are in this stadium, and how you think you can. So apparently, I'm still reading this article, and all the referees or umpires, whatever they're called, they all come to the mound. They ask the guy to see the ball. They ask to see his hand. As soon as they see his hand, they eject him. So apparently he still had sticky stuff on his.
Stupid.
Well, so with these baseball uniforms, they usually have these little front pockets.
Okay.
Because you'll see a lot of pitchers and a lot of baseball players sticking their hands on the little little front pockets. Well, they usually keep a little resin in there, and a little small piece of sandpaper, and they'll just subtly put their hands in the pocket with a baseball and like chingadera it a little bit, and then pull the baseball out and throw it. So
that's crazy.
It's not unusual. Like, this is not
that. See, I thought this was like a 1970s, 1960s kind of thing. The fact that it's happened in 2023, I'm just amazed.
Yeah. No,
so,
some are just.
Oh, and they lost. They lost to the Yankees, by the way. So all right. So hey, listen. Today's topic, we're gonna jump into our topic and see how long we could talk about this with a straight face. America's New Welfare Queens, charter schools or voucher school parents. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is because a lot of states, Texas was leading the charge, and then Florida and now North Carolina is trying to do the same thing. We live in North Carolina. Those who watch and listen to us are probably in a state, unless you're in California or some normal state, Massachusetts, those normal states. They're trying to allow private schools to be accept vouchers, and specifically religious private schools to start accepting vouchers. I know in Oklahoma they're having this situation. In Utah, they're going kind of opposite. They won't let any Catholics receive any Catholic schools receive private vouchers, so they're screwing against the Catholic Church in their states. But the people who are fighting against this are actually Republicans in rural areas, because their schools are the ones that will lose the most money because they need the most money. They don't have the big high. They don't have the tax base of the big cities like Dallas, Houston, or here in North Carolina, even though we're different, Charlotte, and Raleigh, and Durham, and Asheville, and so to speak. So, a lot of these parents who are getting these vouchers to go to charter schools, they've done the study, and it turns out that most of these parents, their kids would go to private schools anyway. Now they're just being subsidized to go to private schools because the thing that's not told is they sell this parental choice, school choice thing on it's good for Black and brown poor families. The problem is a charter school and a private school, even though they are a little different, they don't lower their tuition for you to go to the school. So, for an example, here in Charlotte, North Carolina, to go to Country Day, I think it's like $6,000 or $7,000 a year, or $8,000. I'm not sure exactly how much it costs. You get a voucher for $3,000. The school doesn't lower the tuition. You still have to make up that difference for your kid. So very few poor Black and brown kids actually get to take advantage unless they go to a poor charter school. So they don't get to go. They still don't have a choice. They don't get to go to the elite schools. And so basically what it turns, go ahead.
But let's call this what this is one, this is a rebranded version of segregation. Let's be real. And the second is that this is a massive organized movement. Moms for Liberty just didn't pop out of nowhere. It's a well-funded movement. And the reason I say that is because that's the accusation that Republicans always make. Oh, that's a well-funded, liberal movement. This is a very well-funded conservative movement to privatize schools. There's a lot of money to be made in privatizing schools, and not to mention giving them the power. But their intention is to discredit and destroy public schools as evil or grooming or whatever, is to be able to make the case that but we already have a solution queued up. Let's privatize public schools. Let's shift money to the private sector, because we always know the private sector is so ethical and so forthright that they'll do much better, as we saw with businessman Donald Trump and the way he conducts himself. And so we are going to let yet another industry, one that affects our children, to be privatized. And it's really not just about religious schools per se, even though that's a component of it. What they really want is to get their dirty little hands on the $1 trillion industry. I mean, this is a gold mine.
They want the funds. That's all they want.
Absolutely. It'd be the next great business to go into is owning private schools if they fully get funded by the Department.
Private prisons was very profitable.
Private prisons.
Now they want to go into private schools. Yeah. Okay.
From the same sources. The Bush family was big proponents of private prisons and privatizing electrical industries. Bush set the framework of it as the governor of Texas in his 6 years, and he called it compassionate conservatism. And they said they've been working on this a long time to impugn public schools and teachers unions, and they've been running the same smack for about 30 years, and it's finally getting some kind of resonance because people think public schools are just awful. And they really aren't. They do a lot of amazing work. They do it.
We do have to put things. And I know we've talked about on this show. People don't necessarily think public schools are bad. They think Black and brown public schools are bad, but they love their white schools.
Well, they don't like
yes.
schools.
Yes.
Leave those schools alone because they're fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. They very much, in case in point, we just saw this Myers Park controversy here locally
in Charlotte, North Carolina.
It's a very predominantly wealthy area of Charlotte that the Myers Park High School covers. People bought in specific neighborhoods, nice neighborhoods, in South Central Charlotte, because they believe that their child, when they get of high school age, would go to Myers Park. And because of that, and now they're rezoning things because they're building another high school in Charlotte, just like everything else, when you put in a new high school in the equation, districts have to shift around a little bit.
Sure.
And so this is affecting predominantly wealthy white families.
Sure.
And one particular section of that district is being shoved into another school district.
Mm-hmm.
And they ain't having it. And they are mad. They got the pitchforks and the torches out, and they got their little signs and their little flags out and everything else. And they are fit to be taken. And I can see both sides. But it's ironic that the kids that are being shoved into a different school, it's a little bit more diverse than Myers Park. It's not as rich. And this same mentality is what's carrying this new rebranded segregation that I think black and brown communities are fine. I have a black best friend, but I don't want my kids to go to school with their kids.
So it's hey Jay, let's take our second break, and I want to kind of because obviously a lot of our viewers who watch this, especially with this title, live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but also all around the country. So we're going to take our second break on Coffee and Pan Dulce, and we'll be right back right after this. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching our Coffee and Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. Hey everyone, we just want to wish you a happy Pride. June is International Pride Month and we're celebrating it all month long. Also, we do want to thank those who watch us on Facebook and YouTube and the people who now listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. We want to thank you. Don't forget that our summer schedule is out, so we have our topics that we'll be covering in July and also in August. And just want to say happy Pride. I'll dance out. Happy Pride, everyone. Okay, so I thought this was really funny, and it's funny that you say that, because where I live, it's north of me, like almost the next major street north of me for like a block is that area that they were redrawing here in North Carolina. My neighborhood had all these signs. We want our kids to stay together. And the kids currently in my neighborhood go to Myers Park, which is the big, wealthy high school here in Charlotte, North Carolina. The parents here didn't care if they went to Myers Park. They just wanted to stick together. They end up getting drawn into another school, which is more diverse, but they didn't care. They just wanted their kids to stick together. That was their argument. That pocket in the middle, they wanted their kids to stick together, but only if it was going to Myers Park. And their argument, as you mentioned, we spent all this money for these houses. Everybody spends all the money for houses in Charlotte, North Carolina. But and they threatened the one of the county commissioners, if this happens, we're going to vote against the bond. We're going to support private vouchers. We're going to, they were like, if you don't do this, we're going to take our toys away. But I found it interesting to see there were actually some parents of color. They were the face of this movement. Right. They didn't want the white people to be the face of this movement. They had picked like 3 or 4 faces of color, parents of color, to be like the ones who speak in front of the school board. So that way it made it seem like they were doing bad to, no, what you have to understand, there are black and brown parents that don't want their kids going to black and brown schools. They want them to go to white schools. And so there's this really unique, and that's the reason I was kind of chuckling, there's this really unique dynamic between some black and brown parents, especially the ones who bought into this Moms for Liberty group and these kind of individuals. Their thinking, it's like this self-hatred. It's like, it's this weird, bizarre thing.
I don't think it's a self-hatred because most of them are very conservative people, and most conservatives are fairly narcissistic. But I think it's a little bit more of a control thing. And I think the enemy of your enemy is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, even conservatives of color don't necessarily trust white conservatives.
Okay.
But they also want to align themselves for whatever reason. Maybe it's a religious conservatism,
Sure.
like Mama Ruth, or like the black woman that I got in a battle with on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to give her any credit.
Yeah.
But she was aligning herself with Moms for Liberty because Moms for Liberty is an anti-LGBT group. They're a terror group. And so she doesn't particularly like queers. And so she certainly doesn't want queer kids to be able to get any access to any kind of therapy or any kind of help, or, God forbid, actually make them feel better about themselves by using an affirming name. We wouldn't want kids to have any affirming treatment in school or make themselves build up any self-esteem. We don't want any of that, especially if it's attached to queerness. But anyway, I think a lot of these people think by aligning with a predominantly white supremacy cause,
it'll make them one of the good ones.
It'll make them one of the good ones. So when the Republicans take over and line up the rail cars, just like Hitler's best friend back in the 1930s, Hitler's best friend was gay. And he probably believed that he wasn't going to get sent to a concentration camp. And he was one of the first ones to go. And you got to realize that people like a DeSantis, for example, that aligns themselves with Nazis and stuff like that. If you're a person of color or a queer person or a person of Jewish faith or whatever, if you vote Republican, you line yourself up with people that are white supremacists and support like what happened in Charlottesville or Proud Boys or any of those people, you got to remember you're aligning yourself up with fascists. And at the end of the day, no matter what your personal beliefs are, if you line yourself up to fascists, it's just like carrying around a rattlesnake. They may not bite the first time, but odds are a rattlesnake, when feel threatened, and because it's a primitive creature, it's probably going to sink their fangs into you sooner or later. It's just their nature. And fascists are assholes. That's the reason why we fought against them in our history. And you don't want to align with fascists. It's never going to turn out good. You don't have to be a Democrat, but you get curious shit and align yourself with people that are the roaches of our society.
Sure. Yeah. And that's I completely agree. And it is the untalked about conversations that Black and brown families have is when we have conservative members of our family. We call them coconuts. Coconuts is not it's not a term of endearment. It's a person who's white on the inside but brown on the outside. And in many families, we say, "Oh, they're trying to be white," and so we understand that they feel as if though they align themselves with certain groups that are bigoted towards them because they feel like, as you mentioned, they won't turn on them. And it's this weird, and especially within the Latino Hispanic community. We're doing a show in August called Is Latinx Hispanic White? Because there is a very large population, I would say the majority of Latinos and Hispanics in America that don't consider themselves a minority. They consider themselves white. And that is this untalked about conversation that within our Latino Hispanic community that we don't have because it's like our secret. We are able to go within both groups. The problem is we're never white enough and we're never dark enough. So that's the challenge. But the question I have for you, Barb, because I know you grew up in Illinois, and I know you went to a Catholic school, as did I in my early years. Do you think it's appropriate for taxpayers to subsidize vouchers for kids to go to private schools? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I can remember the fights between my mom and dad because my dad wasn't Catholic. And he had to sign a paper that he was going to pay for us to go to Catholic school, which we hated Catholic school. But it cost a lot of money. And why should our tax dollars go for kids that should be going to public school? If they want to go to private school, let their parents pay for it. Why should we pay for it? I don't agree with it at all. And there's, as a matter of fact, there's some rumblings going on in my family with my, I guess they'd be my third cousins now, that the Catholic schools are just dying off. There aren't that many of them left because nobody's paying for it anymore. But the ones that are there, they don't even have, there's no more nuns. And
it's all secular teachers.
It's all, moms teaching school. But it's way different, but they don't want them to go to those schools. What's the difference? There isn't any difference anymore because the religious people aren't teaching you anymore. It's just, my one cousin said, well, they're just regular white people. And I said, and what's the problem with that? And it's like, what?
This is one of the situations where I'm actually very surprised. I expect the Gen Xers, Gen in my generation, to support this because they're just a screwed up generation. But I'm actually surprised that millennials and Zs are supporting this because they're the kids that are in schools right now, right? And I'm surprised they're supporting it because basically what they're saying is my child should have the right to have the same educational experience as the child across the street, which on its surface makes sense, right? You're like, yeah, you're right. But the problem they are equating is my child should have the right to go to that expensive private school just like the kid across the street. But the reality is the taxpayers are the ones who are paying for it. So it's not, so I don't understand how they expect the taxpayers to pay for their child to have a Harvard education.
I don't think they really understand how it works, is what I think. I know my cousin doesn't, but it's, do you not understand the difference between the three different kinds of school systems we have from 5 to 17 or 18? There weren't middle schools when I went to school. I'm like, what the hell is
the junior high schools?
Yeah, we had grade school 1 through 8, and then we had 4 years of high school. So, I mean, I know it changed, but know the rules. Where do your tax dollars really go? And why?
Well, this is, hey, Jen, this is why I wanted to put this under the America's Welfare Queens, because the whole argument behind conservatives in this country have been, if you are taking public assistance, you're a taker. You've got to, if you're on food stamps, you need to work for it. If you're on unemployment insurance, even though it's very different, you need to work for it. You need to go look for jobs. You need to, I shouldn't be supporting you. You need to pull your boots up and all that kind of stuff. People who get vouchers are getting public assistance.
Yep.
They're getting taxpayer funded because their kids would not be able to pay. Not only their kids, they don't pay enough taxes. It takes about 10 people to pay taxes for one child. And so these parents who say, well, these are my taxes getting back. No, you aren't getting anywhere close to your taxes back because you don't pay that much in taxes.
Yeah.
Well, here's the big irony. So the parents that are clamoring for this the most, the ones that are really pushing this, are usually high-income families.
Exactly.
And they don't want to have to pay any more for schooling than they don't have to. Just like the baseball conversation that most pitchers are dirty cheaters.
Yeah.
These people are wanting to cheat the system. They're wanting us to subsidize their lifestyle. And whether it's a Christian school or a private school, sometimes they want to have the big shot school. They just don't want to pay for it. And they would rather use socialism, welfare.
Yes. That's exactly what it is.
Yes,
exactly.
So it's Social Security, to be honest. Yes, it is.
Big old welfare check for their kids. Something that's unnecessary because they live in a public school district of some kind.
Exactly.
But their kids, little Johnny and little Susie, can just easily go to the public school.
Yeah.
Our CMS schools are really good schools. And unfortunately, the funding that goes to the schools, public schools, and the wealthier zip codes are pretty nice. Myers Park is not dumb. It does not.
Yeah, it's a very, very good school. Yeah.
It's a very aesthetically pleasing school. They've spent a lot of money on it because the people in that area are the ones that go to the public school meetings, are the ones that go to city council and county commission. Probably some of them are in politics. And they're going to make sure that their home school, whether they got kids in that school or not, looks good. That's representative of that part of town. So there's number one. Number two, it's not lost on me that they're begging for and demanding welfare and socialism. The biggest takers are always the biggest, the biggest, wealthiest conservatives. They love government money. They just don't want government money going to black and brown kids. They don't want government money going to queers. They don't want anything to do with government money, anything other than them and their friends. So let's be really, really clear about that. White conservatives don't dislike welfare or socialism. They love it. If it goes to a defense contractor, friend of theirs, absolutely. The trillions of dollars that were given to all the defense contractors during the 9/11 wars for profits, they don't pitch a bitch about that welfare. Not at all. You don't hear them ever go, we need to have a hearing on how that 9/11 war was money welfare was spent with defense contractors. You don't hear a fucking word about that. But the moment that Social Security is taken out of your paycheck that's supposed to go to a specific fund, they call that unnecessary entitlements.
They call it an entitlement. Wait a minute. We paid for it every day, every time we got a paycheck.
We all pay for the system. This is a promissory note that comes due when you reach a certain age or you become disabled. It is a safety net that has been federal law for almost 100 years. It should never enter their mouths.
Plus it actually saves taxpayers money, because if we provide a safety net for seniors, we have to pay less on the back end, because there are things that we don't have to pay for that eventually we will have to pay for. And so if we spent that little bit of money in the front end, we save so much more money on the back end. And so it actually it makes us.
And universal basic incomes, whether they're Social Security or any kind of UBI, is the best type of public spending that you can do, because it does a couple things. It stabilizes certain populations. It stabilizes the United States. And they put almost 100% of that money back into the economy. Nobody's getting rich off Social Security. Nobody's living the lifestyles. They don't have no 80-foot yachts like Mansion or anything like that. Nobody's getting rich off Social Security. It is not designed to do that. Besides the fact that we pay into it and it's our fund, it's our money, the American people's money. But it's not something. My ex lives on Social Security disability. She is not taking exotic vacations to the south of France. I can promise you. I know exactly what she gets, and it's a very low figure, and it's just designed to supplement people's lives in a time of need, whether they want to have the dignity of retirement and not be in absolute poverty, that they should, that's why we put into that, is that we reach a certain age, we go, hey, we're going to kick back a little bit, and then it helps supplement the people's latter years, and or they've got such a medical condition or some type of injury that keeps them from being able to in the full marketplace, like my ex, that's only a year and a half younger than me. It's not old enough to regular retire. She didn't have a pension coming to her because of the jobs she kind of had in her life, so this is designed to keep her alive, to help her with daily expenses. And it's ridiculous to threaten that. It's the same political party that's trying to push for socialism and welfare for predominantly wealthy white people. Take that into a second. You don't really see any people below the poverty line clamoring for this.
They
can't afford the other.
But they're selling it. When you listen to what they have to say, they're saying we're doing this for those poor Black and brown families who deserve a quality education. So that's how they're selling it. So listen, hey, if you like what you're hearing from Jenny, she does have a show that drops 30 minutes after this every Wednesday at 11:30. It's called Two Queers in a Truck. We tape it before this show, so I know what's been on it. It's a good show. This last commercial will be about that.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you. Bye. Hey, y'all. We want to do a special shout out to everybody that is going to celebrate Juneteenth this coming week. We appreciate you as our neighbors, and we hope that all the communities of color have a very happy holiday and a very happy June. And we appreciate you. We see you. Love y'all. Bye.
All right, well, welcome back. So don't forget to watch Jenny's show, and we're going to jump directly into our Pendejo Chronicles. And this is the Pendejo Chronicles. Okay, so we don't really have anything to read. However, I'm just going to throw this out there. The Pendejo Chronicles is Trump was arraigned last week. The Pendejo was arraigned last week. And I thought the dumbest thing that occurred, I don't know if those who are watching the show, you should have seen this by now. On his way back, after being in front of the magistrate and being the first, yes, being fingerprinted electronically. On his way back, he did like a political stunt and stopped at this really famous Cuban restaurant called Versailles. It's a Cuban restaurant in Miami. Stopped there, walked in. You could tell it was planned because they stopped. The cameras were in there. Went in there, and a bunch of some of his supporters were in there from the Cuban community. They raised their hands over him to pray over him like this, and then they sang him happy birthday. Then he said, "Food for everyone in here." It was very performative. It was so performative that I thought this was great. CNN, the person who was running it at that time, Jake Tapper, said, "Control room, cut the feed on this. They didn't want to give him it was a political stunt, and he knew the cameras were going to follow him. And so they stopped doing it. But I thought it was so inappropriate because the country should have been sad that we were going through what we were going through. And not only are taxpayers paying for the motorcade, for the traffic to stop, for all of this, the jerk decided to stop and use more taxpayer money to do a campaign event. And then he's going like this, everything is fine, and, and doing his silly performative kind of stuff. And so I did think that to me, that was equivalent to when he was in Puerto Rico and he was throwing the paper towels.
Oh.
And so I wanted to see what y'all guys, if you even watched any of that. Of course I did, because that's kind of what I do. Jenny, did you have any, or Barb, did y'all have any thoughts
I
on
didn't know
that?
anything
So
about it because I listened to it on NPR driving home from Winston-Salem, and I'd had enough. So no,
I read the article about it, and I think one of his co-conspirators in the case got arraigned for was also at the event, which he's not supposed to.
Yeah, he's right. Well, he's right there with him. Yeah.
He's one of the people that got charged as well. Yeah. So Trump's not the only one getting charged in this case over the documents thing. And I find it interesting that he openly defies court orders and he openly defies so many things. The only way to end this is to make sure not only does he get convicted, but he's held accountable and he sees prison time.
Innuendos yesterday were that maybe this guy's going to turn on him, but that isn't the way it's looking.
Well, I think
it's too soon. He doesn't have a lawyer yet.
Yes,
Trump's having a tough time getting a lawyer because
nobody.
He doesn't pay. He skips a lot.
Apparently, their lawyers are being paid for both of them, Trump and the co-defendant, because the co-defendant is his body man. It's the guy who travels everywhere with him. It's called he's a body man. Anyone who's run for office has a body person who just travels with you. They travel with you. And this person, that's what he does. And he's one of the persons that's been accused. Well, their political PAC, Trump's not paying for his attorneys. His donors are paying for his attorneys. They're being conned to pay for all of his legal bills. Well, they're also paying for this other guy. But apparently they didn't provide him an attorney because he hasn't technically found one yet. And so I did think it was so shady that when people talk about unequal systems, justice, so to speak, there was nothing more apparent than the difference between a very wealthy white guy and an ordinary guy who just does a job. Because the other guy, when they went into the magistrate, he got mugshot, fingerprinted, and didn't have an attorney yet. Trump didn't have to do the same stuff that the other guy did because, he was former president. I kind of get that. But it shows you how little Trump cares about this other guy because he didn't even loan him one of his attorneys.
Well, first of all, we already know Trump's history on caring about human beings. He didn't care about any of his wives either. And the mother of his children. There's a long list of people Trump's dropped into Greece. And that's number one. And number two, Trump has this process down. He's spent a lot of decades in court, making sure that civil suits with families get squashed and pay, hush money's paid. This guy has this down. He has this process in civil and criminal court down pat. This dude has evaded jail time his entire adult life. This guy's spent a lifetime of skirting the law. So he does have a system. There is no doubt. But one of the things I thought was very interesting about this whole thing that's been occurring is I'm very curious, and I've been trying to, kind of read up on it. I'm very curious how the very small people who don't have an opinion, which there aren't, but there are some. I wonder how do you think, Jenny, that they will consider this arraignment, this indictment? You think, if you're a Trump supporter, nothing he does is going to make you admit that you're not going to vote for him. Because then you'd have to admit I was wrong this whole time, and people don't want to admit that. I don't think he's going to start losing followers till he actually gets convicted. And then I think people, the hard, cold reality of him, A, going to the slammer, B, that he violated some significant federal laws. I think this is one of two trials that's really going to damn him with certain kinds of his followers. I don't want to talk about the mouth breather cult members, willing to, get shot for him and things like that. There's a small percentage of the Republican Party.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
He could go shoot somebody in cold blood.
Yeah.
He could go shoot a class of kids and they'd still vote for him. There's just a certain amount of people that have drank the Kool-Aid and will support him, just like the racist governor of Alabama decades ago. They supported him until their deathbed confession to hang up and support him was super racist. Trump's one of the figures that people find their identity with him. They identify because they're also a piece of shit. They're also,
or I said they're so in need of a hero that they will take him as the hero.
Well, I think a lot of Trump supporters reflect Trump's values.
Sure.
When you align with somebody that says what he wants, does what he does, no matter how bad it is, no matter how horrific of a human being he is, they're just as bad. They're just as ugly. They're just as nasty of a human being as Trump is. And they think it validates their existence because somebody like me was the president of the United States. That, hey, I'm not so bad because Trump's doing it and he's the president. And for them, it validates, we've usually kept shitbags like Trump at bay and not really allowed them to. I mean, Republican presidents have been pretty bad, but not as outwardly bad as his personal behavior. Not just his policies were bad, but his personal behavior is horrific because he's a criminal. He's a criminal. He's a rapist. He's already been convicted in civil court of raping somebody. And so he's a predator. He's a sexual predator. And we all know it. And certain people will still vote for him. There's still Republican women that will vote for this guy. And it's unreal. But I think that Christian white supremacist mentality. You saw the same thing with Jim Baker. You saw the same thing with Jimmy Swaggart. You saw the same thing with a lot of these charismatic preachers, evangelical preachers, that people will go off the cliffs of insanity no matter how bad they can have sex with 15 hookers and half of them could be men, and they would not care. It is the idealism that they hold. They don't care about the sins of the person. They care about what they identify and what they hold true and really deeply held personal beliefs. And it makes them also the most vulnerable and stupid, because when you support a shitbag like Trump, that clearly is guilty of what they're accusing him of, and they've got mountains of evidence. And we all know he also incited the insurrection too. We watched it on TV. It's just unreal that anybody could follow somebody like that.
Well, and as they've been saying, at this point, Trump is running to win his nomination, to keep his nomination. He's not running to win new people over, and that's his. That's why I think there are Republicans that are concerned, because I'm fine with it because I'm not a Republican, but because he will bring the voting patterns over the last 3 elections are proving that people are tired of chaos. They're tired of craziness. They're tired of all of the buffoonery.
Well, he didn't do anything good for the country. Look. In his job performance, he was a lousy president. Let's start there. He increased our deficit, our debt, our long-term debt by 25% in 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that is Bush-type spending. He didn't need another 4 years. Just on that alone, he completely managed our emergency reaction to COVID from the get-go. he tried to turn it into another campaign thing and show how he was anti-Chinese. And completely politicized something that did not need politicization. It needed handling. And you even look at, speaking of the White House lawn and events, a lot of people probably already forgot the super spreader event they had when they nominated that Amy Barrett person to the Supreme Court, where bum rushed her nomination. And they had this maskless super spreader event right on the White House lawn, right where the trans event was this last week, and how they were just kissing each other on the cheek and socializing. There was no social distancing. And that's where Trump got COVID from. And we kind of forget about stuff like that. But that's the kind of guy he is. And he makes really bad personal decisions, really bad judgment calls. He endangers people in so many different ways. He endangered the country by having those top secret documents.
I'm just angry that we're still talking about him.
Well, he's still running for president.
You know what I mean? I know. I know. My point is that Americans should be talking about, and I hope this is resonating with people as we go into this year and next year's elections, is the fact that we are actually talking about one person. That is a huge problem. And
it's a bad and a good problem.
To me, that is enough. Yeah.
What Trump is doing is what Reagan and Bush did to the Republican Party. Reagan and Bush became such a dominant force in the Republican Party. It helped elect Bill Clinton. People were tired of it. And Trump, Republican Party is top heavy with Trump. The Republican Party is secretly, and you're starting to see some of his oppositions saying this in one way or the other. We need to get him. We need that he's guilty. Not only is he guilty of it, he needs to be held accountable. Chris Christie just said that. Bill Barr has said that. Many higher ups in the hierarchy of the Republican Party have said the Republican Party needs him to go to jail. They need him to take action because he's not going to go away unless he's forced to.
Exactly.
He's like the turd that won't flush. He keeps bubbling back to the top. Unfortunately, he's their front runner. He's got a 10-fold lead.
That's what's so scary.
The closest person, which is Dick Sarkis. And there is Trump and the other dwarfs. They have no resonance with the Republican voter, and no resonance. They're not being like, people are acknowledging they're running for president, but in no way consider them presidential. And it's the same way in the shadow of Reagan and Bush. And you saw it in '96 when they ran old-ass, tired Bob Dole. They had no fucking chance of beating Clinton for a second term. Bob Dole was run over faster than a speed bump. And not because Bob Dole's a particularly bad guy. I kind of like Bob Dole. I wouldn't have voted for him, but I kind of like the guy. But it wasn't a reflection of Bob Dole. It's the fact that these two men so much dominated Republican parties and raped and pillaged the party to the point to where they became so checked out and so aloof that people did not resonate with that, which is a danger for Republicans because Republicans are really going after the white working class person. That's who they're resonating with a lot. And at some point in time, Trump is going to be seen as this aloof, thinking he's better than everybody else. And what you just pointed out about the difference between the two defendants, Trump and the other dude, is that resonates and gets any kind of traction all amongst the voters. They're going to go, Trump's kind of a bad guy. Look what he did to the co-defendant that he put in that situation. This isn't good. Like, he's a shitbag. I'm turning on me too.
He's turning everyone.
we also need to point out that he had the names of all the people coming to the insurrection. Because they bought them T-shirts and sent them out to them. They all knew who was coming and who wasn't, so they'd have enough T-shirts and shit. This was an organized event. This was not a people chartered buses and planes and stuff like that. This was tough. I knew they were meeting on that day weeks in advance. And I'm not a Republican. I'm not inside Republican politics. I knew they were amassing a select amount of people to come to the mall there in Washington, D.C. To protest about the transfer of power. Everybody knew. The FBI knew. The Capitol Police knew. That's
okay.
So what I'm basically saying is they knew who was coming. Trump from January 6th to January 20th was still president. He could have pardoned all those people.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. Listen, we've run way over. So thank you, Jen, and thank Barbara. She had to drop off here. Thank Pride St. Bernie and MAGA Felon, Baby Trump Pinata. If anybody read the name on him today. We want to thank you for joining us, but we're going to go around. Jenny, tell us where you're going to be the weekend after this airs.
I have no idea. I know on the 28th of June, I do have my gaming event, and it is up on my social media, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be at a new location. Super excited. The Vanity House will be there providing music, DJ music, and some performances by two local amazing talented drag queens, plus DJ Vanna. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's something we do every 2 to 3 months now as we've gotten busier with the other stuff that we do as a company. And I'm super excited. And it's a Pride Month gaming event. It's free, and you get to play in a tournament, and there's prizes. And so we're super excited about that, to have that again in Pride Month, International Pride Month. So that is on the 28th, which would be actually on
a Wednesday.
No, it's on a Thursday. So whatever that last Thursday.
Oh, 29th, on the 29th.
29th, sorry.
Yeah.
29th.
Okay. Excellent.
And be looking for that, or look at the Vanity House socials. They have it posted up there and the location. And if you live in the Charlotte area and you're not an asshole, please come out.
Okay. I will be, sorry, there we go. Lost my thing. I will be celebrating the rest of Pride Month, and then obviously all summer, Pride Summer. And I have been buying stuff like crazy. I've got, these are, all the stores that are supporting and have Pride lines. I've been supporting them as much as I can. So these are actually from I think Petco. These are some of the dog toys. There's all kinds of wonderful stuff, and so please go out there and support your stores who support Pride. I'm actually going to eat at a Cracker Barrel, and I, believe it or not, I may actually go to a Chick-fil-A. It'll be the first time I've eaten at a Chick-fil-A since 2009. So Jenny, you and I may have to go do that, because you and I have a little history with Chick-fil-A when we started your show. So it'll be fun. So thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week on Coffee and Pan Dulce. It'll be our last show of the month, and I believe it is about Who is America Part 3. And it's actually our July 4th kind of show, and the title is Why Bible Bigots Hate America. We'll be talking about Bible bigots and why they hate other Americans. So I will dance us out. Let's see, here we go. Ready? All right, bye y'all.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce every week, and be safe out there, and happy Pride Month to everybody that celebrates, and if you don't, that's okay too. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride Month.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.
Coffee and Pan Dulce. Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Sounds
You
great.
sounded like a telenova. I mean,
That's what I'm trying to. All I have to say is go. Yes.
as a non-Spanish speaker.
And then today's date, by the way, is June 21st. All right, whenever you're ready, Jen.
I am. But yeah. Bye, Barb.
See you later.
See ya.
Sorry.
No, that's.
Now I'm going to another office. I'm like, wait a minute, I was going to go right across the street. Now I got to go. Never mind. I'll bitch about it next week. Bye.
Bye. Be safe.
Yeah, bye-bye.